Okay, so let's start working on our collider action script now. So first of all, what we're going to do right here is we're going to remove these two methods, and at the top we will create a reference to our game manager script. So we're going to say public game manager, name this as game manager as well. Then after this, we will be needing a reference to our notification text. So we will create a reference to that as well. And since we are dealing with UI, so make sure at the top you add using Unity Engine.ui. Okay, now after this, make a reference to our main camera. So we will say public game object, name this as main camera. After this, make a reference to our secondary camera. So public game object secondary camera, or you can name this as show up camera if you want. Okay, then also we need a reference to our price text. Okay, so let me move the UI references down below. Okay, so now public text, name this as price text. Okay, then after this we're gonna create a public bool by the name of player triggered, which will be by default set to false, and then create another bool which will be by the name of in shop. That's it. Now when the game starts, then what we want to do, we don't want the show up camera to be activated. Okay, right now we are disabling it manually, but we will also disable this using our script. Okay, so for example, if we left this camera active by mistake, then our script will handle the deactivation for this camera. Okay, so secondary camera dot set active false. Okay, after this we also don't want to show the notification text when the game starts, so we will say notification text dot game object dot set active, let's set it to false. Okay, and the reason we are using this dot game object because the notification text is of type text. Okay, so when the type is text, we can't use the dot set active directly. Okay, we have to add the dot game object before the dot set active keyword. Okay, now after this we will disable the price text as well when the game start. So we will say price text dot game object dot set active, set it to false. Okay, then we want to add this game manager reference. Okay, so let's do that. Right here we will say game manager equals to find object of type, and the type is the game manager. Okay, now right down below, what we're gonna do, we're gonna create a on trigger method. So we will say on trigger enter, and in this method now we will check if the player collide with the show up enter collider. So we will say right here that if other dot compare tag, and that tag is player, let me show you in Unity. As you know, our player is right now tagged as untagged. Okay, so we have to tag our player as player. Okay, make sure that you do that. And if you don't have the player tag, then click on add tag, click on this plus sign, and right here type player, and then add it like this. Okay, so now when the player collides with it, then what we want to do, we want the notification text to be equals to press F. Okay, and we want the notification text dot game object dot set active true. Okay, actually move this. Actually, we can leave it after the text changing thing. Okay, then we will set the player trigger to true because yes, the player is now colliding with the box collider. After this, when the player is not colliding anymore with the box collider, then in that case what we're gonna do, we're gonna create a method which will be on trigger exit, and when this happens, then what we will do, we will check first of all for the player, and then we're gonna set the notification text game object to false and set the player trigger to false as well. Then right here add a update method, and in the update method first we will check if the player is triggered before enabling camera switching. Okay, so we're gonna say if the player is triggered, and also with that if the player press the F key. Okay, so for the F key, actually we will say press E. Okay, but by using the E key we will allow the player to interact with anything in our environment. Okay, so now we have to first of all set up the E button in our input system. If we get back to Unity, right in here in the scripts folder, open up the player controls, open up player control, and in the player actions, let's create a new button, name this as interact. We're gonna select the E keyboard button. Okay, and make sure that you remember this name, interact. Okay, click save, open up input manager, and in here now let's read this button. We're going to create a bool for it by the name of interact input. Then we will copy this p input line, paste it down below, and as you know its name in the player control is interact, so make sure that you type interact instead of p, and right here type interact input, set it to true, and then set it to false. Then if we get back to the collider action at the top, make a reference to the input manager now, name it as input manager, then input manager will be equals to find object of type input manager. Now we have the input manager right there, so we're gonna say now in here that if the player is triggered, and now also if the input manager dot interact input is pressed, and also if the player is in shop. I mean if the player is not in shop first of all. Okay, if the player is not in shop and we press the E key, then what we're gonna do, we're gonna first of all make the main camera deactive. So we're gonna say main camera dot set active false. Then the secondary camera will be set equals to true, and after that we're gonna also enable the price text. Actually let's make this price text a game object. Okay, and then right here remove this dot game object thing from there, and right here we can just copy that now and paste it right here. So price text dot set active, set it to true, and after that we want the notification text to be false, we will say notification text dot game object dot set active, set it to false, and set the in shop to true. Okay, so in this way the player will enter the shop. Now in the else if, now we're gonna say if the interact key is again pressed, and also if now the player is in shop, so in shop equals to true, then what we're gonna do, we're gonna just simply copy this, paste it in here, and when the player is leaving the shop, we're gonna set the main camera true, the secondary camera false, the price text false, notification text will also be false, and the in shop will be set to false as well. That is all for this. And let me tell you before going and testing this collider action script. So the one thing is this notification, the price text. For now, we will only be showing the price text default text, okay? We are not showing the rifle price because we will be creating another script in which we will show different types of prices for different types of rifles. Now save the script, get back right here, click on this shop enter on which we have the collider action script attached. First of all, it needs the game manager script, but we will not be dragging and dropping the game manager script since it will be added automatically. And as you know that it will be added automatically, so let's make this private. Or you can just remove that, and also from the input manager script as well. Then we need to provide the main camera, so drag and drop the camera manager in there, then the secondary camera, then we need to add the notification text, then the price text, and that is all. Now if we go ahead and test it out, now whenever we touches this, as you can see it shows press E. So now if we press the E button, as you can see the rifle price text is active, and we have the shop camera active as well, and the main camera is deactivated. And now if we press E again, now we are back to the normal setting again. And now if we press E again, but if you notice right here, when we press the E key, it do this thing, okay? So what we want to do in order to fix that E key input is right here on the input manager, we need to remove this cancelled line from here, okay? We just need to add the perform line for the interact input, and then down below copy this handle jumping input, paste it, and right here change its name to handle interact input. And then if the interact input happens, then what we're gonna do, we're gonna set the interact input to false. Okay, so now when we press the E key one time, it will enter the shop, and when we press it again, it will close the shop. Okay, and it will not enter and close the shop again and again. Okay, and make sure that you call this method in the handle all inputs right here. Now if we play the game again, okay, let's get closer to the shop, and when we get in this circle, as you can see it shows press E. Now if we press E one time, as you can see the player entered the shop, and when we press it again, the player close the shop. Okay, now and if we keep holding the E button, as you can see now nothing happens, okay, because now the E should be pressed down in order to do any change, okay, as you can see. So we can now enter the shop. The next thing which we will be doing right now, actually in the next video, is to move this camera closer to the rifles, okay, and then using the N key and the P key we will move to the next and previous rifle, and also we will show that rifle price right here. and then when we press the B key we will buy that rifle and the player money will be then deducted according to that rifle price. So with this done, let's end this video right here and see you guys in the next one.